Thank you for that great introduction. I am happy to be here today to give you an overview of the Orange Book exclusivity. At the conclusion of this presentation, I would like you to be able to describe the different types of exclusivity available to NDA and ANDA applicants. In addition, I would like you to identify how the Orange Book lists information on exclusivity. What is exclusivity for a drug product? The FDA can grant periods of exclusive marketing rights to a new drug application, NDA, or supplemental NDA if certain statutory provisions are met. These exclusive marketing rights are called exclusivities and are granted to NDAs, with the exception of the 180-day exclusivity granted to ANDA generic applications. Marketing exclusivity serves to delay the submission or final approval of generic or 505(b)(2) applications, giving companies a competitive advantage and serving as an incentive to new drug development. This period of marketing exclusivity grants are separate and are unrelated to patent protection. As you may know, exclusivity promotes balance between new drug innovation and marketing competition. Several types of marketing exclusivity may be granted to an application upon approval. Each type of exclusivity has specific requirements and results in various lengths of time for which the applicant is granted exclusive marketing rights. Exclusivity types can be characterized as orphan, gain, pediatric, and Hatch-Waxman, otherwise known as 3 or 5 years. So what are the exclusivities for new drugs? The first type you'll see is the 5-year New Chemical Entity, NCE exclusivity. The 5-year exclusivity is granted to a drug that contains no active moiety that has been approved by the FDA under sections 505(b). The 5 years can run from time of NDA approval. 5-year exclusivity bars the FDA from accepting for review any ANDA or 505(b)(2) application for a drug containing the same active moiety. A 5 years exclusivity can be given if an ANDA or 505(b)(2) does not contain a paragraph 4 certification to a listed patent, or 4 years if an ANDA or 505(b)(2) is submitted containing paragraph 4 certification to listed patent. The next type of exclusivity for new drugs you'll see is your 3-year New Clinical Investigation exclusivity. This is granted to a drug when the application or a supplement contains reports of new clinical investigations, not bioavailability studies, conducted or sponsored by applicant, and is essential for approval. The 3 years runs from the time of the NDA approval. 3 years exclusivity bars FDA from approving for a 3-year period any ANDA or 505(b)(2) applications that results on the information supporting approval of a drug or the change to the drug for which the information was submitted and the exclusivity granted. Both of these are described in 21 CFR 314-108. Other types of exclusivities for new drugs you'll see is your 5 years generating antibiotic incentive now. This is defined as certain new antibiotic drugs for specific infectious disease may be eligible for a 5-year exclusivity, which is added on to any other exclusivity for that drug. Another type you'll see is your 6 months pediatric exclusivity. This is defined as a brand name drug for which the sponsor has done pediatric studies in response to a written request from FDA, and may be eligible for a 6 months exclusivity, which is added on to any other exclusivity or patents for that drug. The last type of exclusivity you'll see for a new drug is your 7-year orphan drug exclusivity, denoted as ODE. This is defined as a new brand name drug for disease or condition that affects fewer than 200 people in the United States, or that affects more people but for which the drug company still has no hope of covering the development costs. This is further described in the Orphan Drug Act and 21 CFR. On this slide, you see examples of exclusivities in the electronic Orange Book. On the left column, you see exclusivity code, and on the right column, the corresponding exclusivity expiration. As you can see for this drug product, it is granted NPP, which is new patient population, and CE, new chemical entity, and I code for indication, and 2 ODE codes for orphan drug designation. Now let's not forget about the exclusivities for generics. The first type you'll see is a patent challenge, PC. Under the Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act of 1984, a generic company can seek FDA approval to market a generic drug before the expiration of patent related to the brand name drug that the generic seeks to copy. The next type of exclusivity you'll see is the Competitive Generic Therapy, CGT. This is created under FDA Reauthorization Act of 2017, FDARA. Competitive generic CGT pathway is intended to stimulate generic drug development where inadequate generic competition exists. The two types of examples I have here is your patent challenge and your competitive generic therapy with its corresponding 180-day exclusivity on the right-hand side. On the next side shows you exclusivity codes with definition, which can be found at the Orange Book Exclusivity Codes and Definition website. Here I'd like to point out some exclusivities for new drugs. Like for instance, your D for new dosing schedule, I for new indication, NC new combination, NCE new chemical entity, NP new product, NPP which is new patient population, new NS new strength, and your ODE orphan drug exclusivity. Also like to point out the extension exclusivities like your pediatric exclusivity PEDs and your GAIN generating antibiotic now incentives. And let's not forget about the 180 days patent challenge PC and your competitive generic therapy CGTs. So on with our first challenge question. The Orange Book uses exclusivity codes to denote the type of exclusivity being granted to an application. Which of the following is not an Orange Book code? A. New product, NP. B. New pediatric population, NPP. C. New indication, I. D. New chemical entity, NCE. So if you answer B, new pediatric population, that is the incorrect answer. That is not used in the this code is not used in the Orange Book. Pediatric is used as PEDs, and we reserve NPP for new patient population. So how does the Orange Book publish the exclusivities? Well, the FDA does not send letters to the sponsor indicating grant of exclusivity. The Orange Book is the official vehicle for dissemination of this information. Exclusivity information updates monthly and current to the date of the monthly electronic Orange Book update. Other ways of looking for exclusivity is to look in the Orange Book annual edition and also the Orange Book Cumulative Supplement Edition, which can be found under the Patent and Exclusivity Information Addendum 1 and 2. So on to challenge question number 2. This won't be as hard as question number 1. So name the types of exclusivity that may be added onto any other types of exclusivity for that application. A. Pediatric exclusivity. B. Orphan drug exclusivity. C. New chemical entity. D. Generating antibiotic incentive now. And E. A and D. So if you answer E, A, and D, you are correct. Pediatric exclusivity and generating antibiotic incentive now may be added onto any other types of exclusivity for that application. I would also like to mention that pediatric exclusivity also extends the period of market exclusivity that's based on patents by 6 months as well. In summary, I would like to point out that exclusivity is a period of time when new drug products are protected from generic drug competition. In general, exclusivity is designed to promote a balance between new drug innovation and generic drug competition. I would also like to reiterate that you have your 5-year exclusivity for new chemical entities, 3-year exclusivity for NDA and NDA supplements. You also have your extension exclusivities like your pediatric and gains, and also your you also have orphan drug exclusivity 7 years, and your generic 180 days patent challenge and CGT's exclusivity. So as you can see, there are different exclusivities for different situations, and exclusivities are officially listed in the Orange Book. So this wraps up my presentation. Be sure to check out the electronic Orange Book and look up your favorite drug and their exclusivities. If you have general exclusivity questions, that can be emailed to the Orange Book mailbox at orangebook@fda.hhs.gov. Otherwise, please submit your question and answers for the panel discussions, and thank you again for having me today.